So I'm going to talk about the jhanas, the stages of meditative absorption. And I want to kind of put them in context. So these stages of absorption are something that come from very ancient traditions. So this is sort of pre-sectarian Buddhism and from the Upanishads, and a long time ago. So a lot of modern Buddhism, a lot of it is now about insight meditation. There are still people teaching the jhanas, and often these things are sort of taught separately, as if there are practices for the jhanas and practices for insight meditation, practices for direct inquiry, or the non-dual practices. And, I see them all at a certain point converging. And I want to kind of point in that direction. It's where I'm going in this talk. And I want to kind of make it clear that these are all facets of what unfolds when we start to really inquire or meditate, or whatever you want to call this process we're engaged in here. And so this is part of the landscape, or part of the phenomena. And I'm going to go into the Theravadan sort of framework of the jhanas, just because it's very thorough and complete, but I don't consider it to be like a map. I don't consider it to be definitive. People have awakenings without encountering any of this stuff, but I think it can be helpful for some people, especially when we're really going into a meditation practice. The jhanas are really related to practice. So as we're cultivating concentration, attention, equanimity, there are these stages that seem to unfold. So we can also completely forget about all this stuff, and as Dogen said, we just sit, just be, and we can end up awakening through that path as well. So again, it always comes down to this always being Buddha, always becoming Buddha. This is a developmental process, so it's unfolding through time, so it's pertaining to the self-structure. But yet we can wake up from the self-structure at any time. So with these jhanas, in our practice, as we cultivate these meditation skills, then we can jump into these different stages of absorption more easily. So the more advanced we are in our practice, the later the stages we can just jump into. So we don't have to go all through them in every sit. These are found in all different traditions. So Patanjali talks about these in the Yoga Sutras. So sometimes you hear, when people are talking about stages of samadhi, they're talking about the jhanas, basically. It's just different terminology. But sometimes samadhi is used to refer to, the final awakening or the final merging, like Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa. But other times they divide up all these different samadhis, and when you get into that, then it's the same as these stages of jhana absorption. I have Patanjali's teaching here, and even in Christianity, the Christian mystics have they call it sometimes the religious ecstasies. So there are energetic unfoldings in these jhanas. So if you listen or read the works of Saint Teresa of Avila, or Saint John of the Cross, or Saint Francis of Assisi, you find these religious ecstasies as they go deeper into prayer. There are these different stages that unfold, and they don't all exactly correlate, but you get a sense, that it's the same landscape, it's the same phenomena unfolding. So in Patanjali's teachings, the last three limbs of yoga are essentially what we're doing here in this retreat. So this is called samyama, which is, so there's dharana, which is concentration, dhyana, which is the meditation, and then samadhi, which is sort of the fruition of that practice. So, so what he says, dharana, as we spoke about previously, dharana is the fixing of consciousness on one point or one region, which is concentration. So focusing on one point. Then dhyana is the continuous flow of attention towards the same point or region. So that continuity through time is the attention span. And then he says, when the object of meditation engulfs the meditator, appearing as the subject, self-awareness is lost, and this is samadhi. So you become one with the meditation object. So your concentration and attention becomes so focused, so single-pointed, that the distinguishing between subject and object falls away. That duality falls away. So there's just the breath, and it's you, essentially, or there's just whatever that meditation object is. So this is, pointing towards the jhanas, this absorption, meditative absorption. You're becoming absorbed in the meditation object. So the first jhana is, we start out in meditation, and the mind, we have the monkey mind, it's busy, and we have these hindrances that are coming up, which we've been talking about. And so the first jhana is when that monkey mind is settling down. The hindrances are not a problem anymore. We sort of move beyond the hindrances, and we're not necessarily continuously present with the meditation object, but we're starting to really stick with it. So we're starting, the monkey mind is settled down, and we're generally staying with the object. So there's, at this point, still thoughts arising from time to time, but generally you're doing something that really looks like meditation at this point. You're actually sticking with it. And there's and so there's what they call piti, in the Pali starts to arise, which is an energy. So the energy that was going into these old patterns starts to become present. There's this feeling of energy, and it generally feels good. It's a good feeling at this point. And so so we start to go deeper, and so the dukkha at the beginning, that unsatisfactoriness because of the hindrances, is starting to fall away. And then this satisfactoriness starts to grow. So this is called sukha. So you have dukkha and sukha. So this sukha also sort of comes and goes as well. Sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it isn't there. And so this is a really important point. A lot of people really stall out. They get what Shinzen Young calls stuck in a good place. So there's this satisfactoriness that comes, and what happens is we can start to play this game of sensation. So so with the hindrances, we learn to surrender. We're not labeling our pain as pain anymore. We're just being equanimous with what is, and then we find that it produces this kind of bliss or satisfactoriness, and so we can start seeking that. We can so the good blissful feelings will be there, and then they'll subside, and then we'll be craving to get them back again, and there's this game of sensation. So there's this subtle seeking in the mind of wanting that state or that bliss, and so we don't progress beyond the second jhana until we really have no preference towards that sukha, until we're willing to let that phenomena come and go. So even that bliss that is born out of progress, it's progress in our meditation. We're really surrendering if that's coming, but yet it can just become another prison or another attachment. So we have to even let that go. And so the next stage then, the third stage is really being equanimous. We're really being sort of grounded in equanimity, having no preference of any phenomena that's coming and going. And it's with this equanimity, if we can really be okay with whatever is coming up in our practice, this equanimity kind of goes hand in hand with the next thing that arises, and that is true single-pointedness. That's the true single-pointedness where you're really there continuously with your meditation object. So there's no more break. So it's like what Patanjali was talking about, that continuous attention that leads to samadhi, and so that will lead into the fourth jhana, which is it's sort of characterized by this feeling that you can meditate forever. There's just this feeling that there's total focus, total presence, and just this energy is present, because the energy now is single-pointed, or the focus is single-pointed, so that energy, all of that energy that's normally going into the conditioned mind becomes present, and it somehow supports this single-pointed presence with your meditation object. So this is the point at which that merging starts to happen, or that samadhi state happens. And I'm going to read. This is from the Buddha himself. So this is on his night of enlightenment, and he's talking about the jhanas. He's talking about how he's going into the jhanas, and so he's at this point where he says, "Tireless energy was aroused in me, and unrelenting mindfulness was established. My body was tranquil and untroubled, my mind concentrated and unified. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, I entered upon and abided in the first jhana, the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth, and so on." So he talks about how, this is his big, sitting under the Bodhi tree, really going for it. He had that absolute determination. The story goes that he decided he was going to sit under that tree until he got to the truth. Whatever happened, he was going to be unrelenting in that. And what really stands out to me is, unrelenting mindfulness was established. Tireless energy was aroused. So this is the jhanas. So as we go deeper in our practice, we have these capabilities. The attention, concentration, equanimity. These literally get wired into this avatar, and so we can. It's like our baseline of meditative capacity just gets increased as we progress through the jhanas. So one of the things that is described in the teachings of the mystics is that we're as we progress on the path, at every stage there's this sort of dropping off of mind, and there's an increase in sort of the benefit of that dropping off. So we go deeper into these feelings of joy or energy or ecstasy, rapture, and the deeper we go, the more beautiful these experiences are, and simultaneously the more sticky they are, because the more beautiful, like when the real rapture starts to come, these non-dual experiences of being one with God, these are everything in our being wants to stay there. So to be equanimous with that as a temporary state is challenging. It's very challenging. So it's like the stakes get higher as we go further with the jhanas. It gets very difficult for the mind to not be attached. So in direct inquiry, we intend to directly experience our true nature. So we're not, it's always in the now. We're not progressing through these different stages, and when we awaken, we find, a peace and a joy and happiness that is not contingent on anything external. So in all of these jhanas, all of the experiences that come and go are temporary. They're all contingent on this practice that we're doing. This letting go and this dropping off of mind. But eventually, when we go to the end of the jhanas, like the first 4 jhanas are what they call the material jhanas, which are pretty equivalent to the Savikalpa Samadhi. Sometimes it's called samadhi with a seed. So there's a seed of form. There's a seed of pattern there. So it's temporary. So it's the pattern will grow back. Basically, the seed is still there. So they call those the material jhanas. Material having to do with form. The immaterial jhanas are when we enter into that Savikalpa Samadhi state. So we merge with our meditation object. Then there can be the dropping away of the mind and body, and we enter into the immaterial jhanas. So there are 4 immaterial jhanas, and I'm not going to really talk about those because they're not really good to talk about. They're best left for direct experience. But I'll just say what they are. So the first one is infinite space. So there's still a sense of infinite space, and then that will drop away, and there's a sense that that infinite space is infinite actually infinite consciousness. And that infinite consciousness drops away into this even more subtle no-thingness. And that no-thingness drops away into what they call neither perception nor non-perception. So it's getting pretty abstract here. And these are, you don't have to learn these things. These are just, phenomena that unfold naturally as a result of practice. And so hanging out in neither perception nor non-perception, then the final sort of realization in that jhana progression is what they call nirodha samapatti, which is, that's what the Buddha experienced. So it's a very rare phenomenon where the being that enters into that, it's when they're able to meditate for insanely long periods of time. So they'll go into essentially a meditative state for weeks and basically burn off all the rest of their karma. So nobody does that. So it's very, very rare, but it's a thing. It's a thing, and some of the great masters have experienced that. Yeah, so the convergence of, it's in that total dropping off of mind and body. It's realizing what remains in that state. And no one can tell you what remains in that state. You have to realize it. So this is where, the direct path and the jhana path converge, is in that final realization. They're both coming to the same place. So it ultimately doesn't really matter if you are just sitting. If you're just sitting, you're going to go through all this stuff anyway. Whatever's in the unconscious is going to present itself. Energy will be freed. These stages of bliss and all this stuff. Some people experience it, really strong energy. Other people, have different phenomena. They have different letting goes, or, different ways that letting go of pattern will manifest in experience. So not everybody, there is this, in Buddhism, they call it the dry path, the insight path, where you don't necessarily go through, rapture and this unfolding of kundalini and all this stuff. It's possible for this flip to happen in a just a more direct way without this unfolding. So it's kind of mysterious. I'm not sure why that is. Some people, they have all the bells and whistles on the path, and this whole unfolding of jhanas, and for other people, it's not necessary. Yeah. So, any questions about that before we move on?
I have a question about karma.
Mm-hmm.
A little disturbing to hear you say that the karma gets burned off at the very, very end. Instead of, is there no processing and working with karma along the path along the way, or does it all get...
But everything that we're doing, all this purification of samskaras, this is all, you could say, purifying or becoming free of karma. Yeah,
bits of it,
of course, yeah. To me, that's all. It's all what we're doing. Every time we're seeing, a big mind pattern, and we're able to let it go. We're becoming free of that karma, and there's an interesting thing with karma, for me. like when we finally have that flip to awareness, you know, where we realize, like, I'm actually not this character that is going through this whole process. You know, the crazy thing is that awareness was never bound at all by karma. It was never touched by karma. So the whole thing with karma is kind of a red herring, you know? Like it's like it seems like there's something to do there, but yet when that flip happens, it's like awareness was never bound in the first place. So, you know, who does that karma belong to? It belongs to the character. So it's kind of ridiculous, you know? The whole worry about karma, and you know, there's this whole thing in Buddhism about once returners and you know, like, you know, coming back, and you know, like, who comes back? You know, it's all awareness playing hide and seek, this one awareness. So to me, it's a little bit of a non-issue, you know. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In the retreat, we go quite deep in our meditation practice more easily because we're like stuck in the retreat, and you know, no escape for the mind and all that. And as the retreat progresses, the mind is quieter and quieter, so it goes further into meditation. Mm-hmm. My question is, when we be out of this retreat, like I meditate each day 1 hour, mm-hmm. Is it enough? Is it going to, is this depth, this profound experiences, can we just in an hour a day, and then you have all the rest of your life going on, you have all your worries? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the question that always comes up. And yeah, so, you know, the truth is, and, you know, this is something we talk about all the time, you know, it's you know, we have awakenings, you know, we put ourselves in these conditions of no escape and then go back to life. And like, the truth is, it doesn't always get easier. It actually, you know, we get very sensitized to the pattern. We can see the pattern so clearly, you know, like, so when you know who you are, you know you're not that conditioned mind, but yet there's still samskaras or still patterns in play. There's just still, you know, like the character goes back to life. So so it becomes very, very clear that those patterns are there, and we feel them fully when we go back to life. So in some ways, you know, I always say it's the beginning of you know, a really accelerated purification process then when we go back to life, because we feel and see whatever is remaining to be purified, and it'll be more obvious. It'll come up more clearly. So, but at the same time, like, you know, so the key for coming to, you know, a practice like this and doing this and finding out the truth, you know, that conditioned mind that was seeking and doing something isn't you, and that it can't do it. It has to drop away and essentially fail. So the main difference is the end of seeking. You know, there's no more seeking. You don't need to be seeking anything when you go back to life. You don't need to be searching for who you are, because who you are is always right here. You know, it's that fundamental delusion of the mind that it has to do something, you know, or, you know, that the peace that I'm feeling in this, you know, meditation retreat, you know, the mind will always go, it's so sneaky, it'll just say, you know, how do I keep it? How do I hold on to it? You know, the mind is saying that always, you know, like, how do I hold it? How do I integrate it? You know, but that's the delusion of the mind, right? Like, the mind can't do it. There's nothing the mind needs to do. So we can go back into life and operate the same way we're operating in this retreat. Just let it happen. Just let it unfold. You know, that purification is going to happen just by you being you, just by being. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, the truth is it's not an easy ride always, you know. We go back, we fall into, you know, we get snagged over and over, you know. We fall into pattern, you know. Then we realize who's falling into pattern or what's happening, and this is part of that purification process. And, you know, by coming back into being over and over, there's this purification that happens, and eventually the outer life will, you know, will rearrange as a reflection of more true expression of who we are. Yeah.
So the key is to change the perspective, is to know who you are, and the rest is just.
Yeah, and that energy, you know, that is alive as well, like that sensitizes you to, you know, it, like a lot of the big patterns that need to shift in the outer world become so obvious that you can't put, you know, you can't go back in that box, right? Like the energy is out now and it's free. So it's like it's really obvious, and so it's not even a choice anymore. You know, it's like the energy has made the choice for you. Yeah.
Thank you. It's very, very helpful. Extremely helpful. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I remember in this film of Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yeah.
About that, and, because I was asking same question, and he's like, saying that it's fine in Spanish because everyone is like thinking or asking same thing that we're thinking.
Yeah.
And it's I remember that I love that film because of the story itself. There is a point where, you know, on the path of Yogananda, he wanted to be in a cave, just meditating, and the divine that he's all the time like calling like that. The divine is like telling you need to be in America, you need to be in these troubles, so because are your lessons, you need to be there. And he got enlightened in the end. Not because he was in a cave, but because he was doing his lessons in the normal life.
Yeah.
Normal problems, all the things that were there, and he become enlightened. And this is the answer to my same question, so I'm just sharing.
Yeah.
This film is beautiful and explains completely, and actually you have
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And explain completely this path of being in all the things.
Yeah, that's it. So it's different for everyone, you know, that flowering of the lotus, or whatever you want to call it, you know, it's like he listened to that direction, you know. He knew something in him was saying he had to go to America, and that was clear. That was his path, and he listened, he aligned with that energy, and that is enlightenment. Yeah, when we align with that inner direction, that's it. Yeah, whereas for somebody else, maybe it is going in that cave, you know, maybe that's their path, right? So we just never know, you know, or it could be absolutely anything, you know. It could be, you know, being an artist where we you know, express what's coming through in, you know, or a musician or whatever, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it's just that willingness to just follow and trust that inner guidance. And it's so simple. It's just what excites us. That's all it is. You know, it's very childlike, really. It's not, it's sometimes people, at the end of the retreat, they'll be like, okay, I know who I am, but what's my purpose? And it's like, that's such a burden to have a purpose. It's like a projection into the future, right? Again, that's the mind. That's the trap of the mind. Like, what's my purpose? Like, what a heavy burden to have, like, some mission that you have to fulfill. So to me, it's more like, like people look at my website, like awakentheworld.com, and think, oh, you've got some big mission, some big purpose or something. But it's that moment to moment, following your excitement is it. Like Joseph Campbell said, yeah, follow your bliss. That's it. Yeah, and it's very, like a little kid doesn't say, what's my purpose? They don't try and figure out their mission in life. They just go and play with the next toy, or they're just excited naturally, and it's that feeling that is our compass. Yeah.
Say something about Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell. Yeah, he's famous for that phrase, follow your bliss. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I will take a short break and then come back for meditation.